Welcome to our Tuesday, June 10 homeschool day. A lot of you have asked how I combine the Charlotte Mason and Waldorf approach with our main lessons, and today I'll share with you the books that we use. We want to ensure that we're using living books whenever possible, and how we do a combination of a Charlotte Mason approach, especially with our opening activities, and balance it out with our Waldorf approach for our main lesson block. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to walk you through that as we go through our homeschool day. It's 7:30 a.m. My daughter is having breakfast, and we're not going to start our formal lessons until maybe 9 or even 10 a.m. However, in that time until then, my daughter is going to work on her written narration and her reading from yesterday's lessons. Currently, she has a lot of daily reading. I put the little lesson plan on the back so she can keep track of the pages that she needs to read. She can mark off the pages that she's read and mark off the narrations that she's done. She hasn't done that. She hasn't marked them off, but she's done written narrations for Kepler and for Copernicus. So she has her reading to do for today, but before she does her reading today, she needs to do her written narration from yesterday's reading. And that ends up meaning that she does a little bit more reading from yesterday's work just to prepare for the written narration. So those are two books that she needs to write for in her main lesson book. The Galileo for Kids book, she's doing written narrations for these as well, but she's doing it on parchment paper with either a fountain pen or a quill, and it was one of the activities in the book that inspired us to do the lessons that way. We still have our astronomy main lesson to do. There's no written work for this, so we can just read this every day. The chapters are really short, so it makes this lesson very easy. And this only takes about 15 minutes max, but we're going to save a lot of the reading for later in the day. We want to do a lot more of the written work and the projects first thing. So when we actually start our homeschool day, probably around 10 a.m., realistically, we'll do some opening activities, but we're going to dive into some of the projects that are in the book Galileo for Kids. It has about 25 projects, and several of them are ones that I think are really great demonstrations to understand some of these astronomical concepts that we're going to be covering. Yesterday, we forgot to do mental math, and so we have a couple of days to do today. We have last Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. So that might take less than 10 minutes to do. So I want to make sure that I remember to do that. Another thing that we didn't get into yesterday were some of these extra books that I've put up or put back onto our table. And so I want to spend a little time reading a few pages from each of those resources. Those are kinds of books that we only read for our opening activities, and I don't require any written work from any of the picture books that you see here, or even this book called Sky Atlas, which I'm using in support of our main lesson. I'm also not requiring any written content for that as well. Yesterday's main lesson for astronomy, the second block of the astronomy block, was a religious lesson. Yesterday I did the illustration as well as the written content. The written content, this summary is really small compared to the lesson itself. The written content has to do with the stars, the moon, and the sun. So the constellations, the sun and the moon as a measure of time for the calendar. Now, I've only included 2 ayahs from the Quran here, but there are several more that I'll be including throughout this entire unit. If you want to see a complete list of all of them, they are at the blog post that accompanies the astronomy unit, and you can find that link in the description box below. For this illustration, we used our chalk pencils, and this main lesson book has blank pages for your writing and blue pages for your illustration. And the blue pages are thick, they're very good quality. They're thicker than the white pages, and the page itself, even though it's smooth, it's just the smallest bit textured, so that when you are doing your illustrations, especially with the chalk pencil, I feel like the chalk pencil really adheres well to the page. However, you do need to seal the page with a matte finish if you're using chalk. And once I did that yesterday, I felt like some of the chalk just sort of disappeared into the background. So I added a little bit of chalk over top the illustration once it was already sealed. I don't know how that's going to be once the pages are closed. And I did also add that along the edges here because this was chalk as well, and I didn't want to transfer to this page. So in addition to all of the work that my daughter has to do this morning, she also needs to write up this main lesson into her main lesson book, which is over here, along with her These are the letters that she's done for the Galileo. So she has the Galileo book I have read that one aloud, and she is doing the written work in parchment paper with wax seals. So that's something else that she has to do this morning. So there's a lot of independent work that my daughter needs to do. And in that time, I will prepare the next lesson and the next illustration for the main lesson for astronomy. So I already have the illustration that I want to put here and the written content. It's not done, but I did a lot of research yesterday. And that means that I'm going to continue doing as many lesson preps as I can until my daughter is ready to do our main lesson. And in addition to the astronomy preps that I'm doing, I'm also completing the anatomy lessons too. So today I think will be a day that we are here mostly at the desk doing a lot of written work. It's still kind of overcast, which kind of lends itself to that cozy feel. And so I think that that's what we'll spend the majority of the morning doing. All right, so let's head down to the kitchen and finish breakfast because I still need to have breakfast. My daughter is done eating, so I think she's going to head up here to do her works pretty soon. And then we will reconvene. Let's aim for 10 a.m. Welcome back to the schoolroom. It's just after 10 a.m. and my daughter has been spending the last couple of hours doing her independent work. I think we will start with some opening activity. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna let her do her written work for the reading that she has reviewed, and then we'll start on our opening activities. It's 11 a.m. We're going to play Destination Mars. My daughter has already finished the written narration for Kepler and the reading. We're going to take a small break, do some opening activities before she resumes her work with the written narration for the book that she's reading on Copernicus. It's 11:25. We're done with Destination Mars. We're going to do some trivia cards and then probably break for lunch. Let's see. How thick are Saturn's rings? Less than a mile thick, less than 10 miles thick, or less than 100 miles thick? And the answer is A, less than a mile thick. So I'm going to mark that there. Okay, that one's yours. Venus. Why is Venus the hottest planet in our solar system? A, volcanoes, B, gases, or C, the atmosphere? It's 3 p.m. and our day has been leisurely. We have been working on lessons. It's not been a lot to share because a lot of it has been independent work, a lot of reading and a lot of writing in a main lesson book. But I want to share with you how we have incorporated the Charlotte Mason philosophy within our Waldorf homeschool. The way that we do this, and you can see with our wall of books, I love books. I love them as both resources for myself, as teaching tools for my children, and as independent reading for my students. The way that we have incorporated using living books within our Waldorf approach, which does not use books as read alouds, they will use the books as a resource for the teacher or the parent in order to prepare a lesson and deliver a lesson. But in Charlotte Mason, we're using the books a lot as the teaching tool. So I will use books that both my daughter reads or that I read aloud as a teaching facilitator. It will be a teaching tool, but the learning comes from the narration. Now you can use all kinds of notebooks for your narrations, but this one is somewhat of a blank main lesson book. It has the line pages, which is nice, but it also has the blank pages so that you can add your illustrations or cover page. And then it has the line pages so that you can add your written work. The way the written work works towards your learning is that it is active on the student. So the passive part is the reading. The passive part is the presentation. The active part is the doing, and that is the responsibility of the student. The learning is always the responsibility of the student. The teaching is always the responsibility of the teacher. The teacher can present the lesson, can assign the homework, but the learning comes from the student. And so when we are doing our learning, a lot of it can be written, some of it can be oral in the form of a review. And then you can also do things. You can have a presentation, you can have a performance, you can have a hands-on project. There aren't just limited ways that you don't just have to put written content into a main lesson book. You can also have an artistic expression, which of course Waldorf does often, where we will have artistic representations for the lesson to really help facilitate that learning. So how do we actually balance the two? It really only works in a home setting. I don't think that using read aloud books works as effectively in a classroom setting. I think the way that you can use the books in a classroom setting is primarily as a resource for the teacher. In the home setting, however, especially with small groups and especially with mixed ages, you can utilize your picture books and other resources especially well in delivering lessons, or the way that we use them primarily is in our opening activities. We use them in our main lessons as well, but we especially enjoy using all of our books in our opening activities because that way we can have a variety of books that otherwise may not find their place in our learning and in our teaching and within our homeschool, but including them as opening activities means that we can get through a lot of the resources that we have in a way that really works with our style of education. It's about 3:05 and we're going to work on mental math. The first question is 7 times 3 plus 6. 27. 3 times 3 over 5. What is smaller, 4 over 6 or 3 over 2? (100% of 210). 10% of 210. What is 110% of 210? Okay, that was easy. We're going to do Monday and Tuesday. I didn't mark the dates yet, but I'll add those in a minute. 25% of 200. Okay, we just finished all of these. So we're done with mental math. My daughter's going to get back to doing her narrations for the day. It's already 3:15. I don't think we're going to be starting the new main lesson until closer to 5, maybe 5:30 p.m. Welcome back to the schoolroom. It's 5 p.m. and we are finally ready to do our main lesson for the day. Let's start with Galileo for Kids. This is the lengthiest read that we have. Our astronomy main lesson is one that I'm presenting. I'm not reading it, so it's a presentation. And we are going to read from
the Charles Kovacs book, but these chapters are really short, so it's maybe 10 minutes. But this we're reading 10 pages, but we have a couple of pages to read from yesterday in addition to today's reading and this additional excerpt. So it's probably gonna take at least 30 minutes to do the reading for Galileo for kids, but I do want to just check that my daughter has already done her written work from yesterday before we move forward with this lesson. It's 6 p.m. My daughter is caught up with all of her written narrations for Galileo. For one of them, she combined it. So now we're up to today's date, so page 40 to 50. We are starting on page 38 in order to do all of Kepler together. So we're going to start with the reading and we're going to do this little insert. Though Galileo was already a brilliant mathematician, it's 6:40. We just finished Galileo for Kids. We're going to start on Astronomy by Charles Kovacs, and we are up to chapter 27, the cosmic or Platonic year. The spring equinox, the point at where the sun stands, so the whole earth is involved in the great cosmic rhythm of 25,920 years. Okay, we're going to work on the astronomy main lesson, and it is the presentation that I worked on yesterday for latitude and longitude. So the first thing we're going to do is review this lesson from yesterday. So this is a religious lesson regarding using the sun and the moon for calendar calculations and all of the manipulations and adjustments to the calendar that have had to be made because the time it takes for the earth to go around the sun once is not a rational number. So it doesn't fit into a perfect day, or even when we do leap year, we also need leap century. And so none of it's going to fit perfectly. So this is what that lesson is about. But after we review that, we're going to work on latitude and longitude. It's 7:25. We are done with our main lesson for the day. We are going to finish our school day with planetarium. We meant to do this as part of the opening activities, but we're going to go ahead and just finish off the day with 2 pages. Let us read the Earth and the Moon. Our home, Earth, is the only body in the solar 7:45, we are done for the evening. Thank you for joining me on my Tuesday, and I'll see you Wednesday.